Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Perry Mason. A great premiere. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, like a rough, kind of start to the episode with the whole ransom, and then it turned out to obviously, turn into the botched situation that it ended up being with the whole baby Charlie situation, which is like obviously kind of disturbs you a little bit because it's like, oh, they show you that, just the eyes being stitched and everything. That's rough. And obviously after that, trying to get away from like the more somber side of things really quickly. There's the whole introduction to Perry. He's got this job working with, I guess Pete's kind of like his partner or whatever. They're following this actor because basically the studio's got like a moral clause against him, like, which obviously is kind of a thing of like, Pete's like, who cares what he does with his penis, it's just kind of like, and they followed him because he went to watch one of his own movies, and everyone's laughing except for Perry just sitting there looking miserable and just like, oh, a guy getting kicked by a horse, I don't know why that's not funny to you. And Perry's like, because I grew up on a farm, which that becomes a very pertinent thing later on because we find out like he lives on a farm because his parents died and left him the farm, even though like he shouldn't. It's kind of on its last legs pretty much, but we'll get to that in a second. But I like the fact of the matter is they follow Chubby, and he's with some actress, which later on you see her in the episode, like near the end of the episode, and I was looking, I was like, isn't that Madeline Zima? And I totally believe it was. Because she has red hair, but I was like, that. I saw her face, I was like, that looked like that was Madeline Zima. Side note, I should also point it out, there's like a shit ton of like actors you're like, oh, I know that actor. Obviously Matthew Reese, John Lithgow. She's not in this episode. Technically she is, but she's not really there. But it's Tatiana Maslany. I saw Robert Patrick. I'm like, dude, all these damn actors, dude. It's crazy. But I love that, like, she's slapping food, and then, like, which I think is interesting, because I wouldn't associate that with being a 30s thing. I don't know why, like, in my mind, I think that's, like, a more modern thing. I wonder, was that something that who knows how long that's been a thing, like having sex, like, while people slather themselves with food. I don't know, it just kind of caught me by surprise, and it's like, oh, and then, like, home dude Chubby was chasing after them with his, like, not even bother putting on clothes. He was chasing after him. It's like, hey, he threw his shoe at us. And Pete's like, hey, I'm your biggest fan. Which is so interesting because I think that's the same actor. I think the actor's name is Chris Chalk. He's the actor, he played the head of the SSR in, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, because I just watched season 1. Once again, I still need to circle back and watch season 2 at some point. But, like, that's I think that's the most recent thing I saw. I kept thinking, like, isn't that him? I think it is. I just wasn't sure. I should also note that one of the cops in this episode was like, why does he look familiar? I'm fairly certain that Garrett's dad, Withers, from The Outpost. I'm pretty sure that's the same actor, which means he's putting on an American accent, which is, I mean, to be fair, I know Matthew Reese is putting on an American accent, so regardless, I just always think that stuff is interesting. But getting back to, focus on a story, like, obviously, Perry has a farm, running behind on it. He's across from, like, I don't know, it's not necessarily an airport, it's like, it's an own place, and he actually shacks up with the lady who owns it. I love that it was such a really interesting sex scene, because she's like putting her foot in his face and stuff like that. Well, for what, she's turning his face at one point, and then she's like stepping on him, and then just like they're going at it, and the bed is sliding further from the wall, and he's slipping in between it, and then they're just done, and she's like, she gets dressed, and he's stuck in. I was like, I love that. That is the most interesting sex scene I've ever seen. That was great, and he's just talking, and he's just stuck like that. I love that. But obviously it's like she's offering to like buy the place for him from like $6,000. But for him, he's not willing to sell it, because I guess it's just because it is something that was passed to him, and it's like, it's like keeping his family. I mean, maybe he's looking for the right price, or just maybe it's the thing, maybe that's supposed to be what it kind of represents for Perry. It's the fact that he just can't let it go. Obviously, he also tried to do some dealings with, obviously, the pictures, the whole thing with Chubby, and it's like, okay, you wanted $200 for it. He's like, yeah, I'm actually going to go for $600, because, oh, here's a picture of your starlet. Oh, this is your up-and-coming star getting caught in such a compromising position, pumpkin pie and everything with their situation down below. So it's like, Perry, is trying to milk this situation. He gets brought in by John Lithgow's character, who's like an associate of his. They've worked and stuff in the past, and he's like, you haven't come to me in like 3 months or whatever, so it's just kind of interesting that you would come out of the woodwork now. But it has to do with Charlie's case, because they're part of a church where Robert Patrick's character brought them into this, because for him, it's like, because even Perry was like, why don't you get the cops involved? Like, they're already investigating but he's like, I don't trust the LAPD. And Perry's like, yeah, me neither. So he kind of gets brought into this case, which even he went into this knowing like, nah, LAPD's not going to be too happy. Those detectives aren't going to be too happy about me like stepping into territory and stuff like that. But it's interesting kind of getting a little peek at how, Perry handles himself, because it's like, it seems like a lot of time, at least with his investigating, it seems like he does a lot of like taking pictures and listening. It doesn't seem like he does a lot of the talking, because he let the detectives do all the talking and stuff like that, but they are looking at the husband for this, which he's like, wait, you think I did it? But even I'm like, isn't it a little, because they keep bringing up the fact is you have $100,000. I was like, obviously this is back in 31. It's like, that can't be the easiest thing to come across, because even later on he brings it up too of like, Perry's like, working where he works, like, how do you have that type of money? Whoever it was had to have known that you had that type of money. Also knew exactly when the mother would, put the baby down, put Charlie down, and then also come downstairs and fall asleep. Like, you'd have to stalk them enough to know stuff like that. So it's like, it's a thing of like, for him, it's just like a lot of stuff isn't adding up. It's not like he's necessarily saying they're behind all this, but he's not saying they're not behind it, because he ends up talking to the mom, and I think her name was Emily. Like, he ends up talking to her, and there's that thing of like, oh, like, he's a parent and she's a parent. Like, it's like, she's like, hey, Charlie likes turtles, and it's like, do you have a children? And he has a son, which we kind of learned a little bit before that. Like, he doesn't live with his son. Like, his son actually lives with his mom. They're split. And he's like, oh, my son's like about to be 9, and he's into fire trucks. And she's like, yeah, 9 is a good age for a boy. And it's just like heartbreaking, because it's just like I think for him, it's just, it's a tough situation, especially because like he'd walked by it before, like Charlie's body before, because he went to the morgue, because I guess like that's how he's like, oh, I need a tie. Because I even love that home dude was like, the guy that was giving him money for the whole chubby situation was kind of like, oh, you've got egg on your shirt. He's like, yeah, I know. It turns out it's mustard. But the fact of the matter is, he went to the morgue and paid home dude to give him like a different tie off of like a dead body or whatever, because he had to look spiffier for meeting with the Robert Patrick's character and stuff like that later on. But it is, it was kind of like a rude awakening the moment he saw Charlie's body, because it's like, I think it's one thing to hear it, and it's just like to see it was just a whole other thing. And even like him taking some of the stitching with him, and it's just like, I was actually surprised they actually showed it again, because there's a part of me that was like, should I actually, because I didn't notice the stitching the first time. I guess I was just too disturbed by like what they were kind of showing, so I was like, should I go back to see the details? But I was like, no, I'm not going to. The moment I have that thought, they literally show you like Charlie like 3 more times, and I'm like, never mind, because I decided, I was like, I don't want to go back to check any details. I don't need to. And it's like, oh, those details got thrown in my face in that moment. It's just like, it's like, it's definitely a doll, but it's still just like, even then, it's just still kind of like what it represents. It still just kind of makes you go, kind of hits you the wrong way. So you're just like, but obviously, I think as a father, like, it disturbs him, because obviously he's at that party later on, and he's just not in it. Like, obviously it's not his scene, but at the same time, it's just a thing of just like, having seen what he saw, it just, you can tell it really fucked him up. And so obviously he's meeting with like the head of like the God, what is it? Head of the studio is kind of what I was getting at. And obviously there's a money situation. It's like, all right, here's the pictures. And basically home dude was kind of like, you know what we do? We basically, this world is hopeless, but we, for a nickel, we give them a little bit of basically escapism. But you want to threaten that for some like 400 extra bucks. He's like, the price can be, debate. It can be flexible. He's like, no. It's not about the price. It's about the principle. And so it's like, we agreed on 200. So here's 200, but minus 199 for you doing what you're doing, like trying to get more money out of this. So they're over there, they took his gun, they lit a lighter to it and got it nice and hot, and they burned his chest with it, you know. So it's like, yeah, you gave us these photos, now make sure you bring us the negative. So, and obviously Pete wasn't too happy about that, because it's like, oh, because he was kind of counting on that money too, and it screwed him over. And obviously it's just like, he apologized because he's like, I overplayed my hand. He goes home, he's kind of getting drunk, just because it's just everything. That encounter came up after he saw Charlie, so it was just like one thing after another. He's drinking. He wanted to talk to his son, just because it's like in that moment, it's just like, you're not with your son, you just need to hear his voice, just, you know, kind of help, you know. It's just like, because I'm sure in his mind, and when he saw Charlie, he just couldn't help but think of his own kid. Like, it puts you in that same boat, I think. And so for his wife not really, because it's like behind on the money, he's like, yeah, things are kind of a little tight, kind of yells at her, and just, I don't know, it's just, it's a, you know, a tough situation. At the same time, we do find out, because I was thinking like, oh, the police are looking at the situation from the perspective of it was the dad, because even later on, before Perry had run into like the cops, because he had broken into the place that the parents were waiting at, you know, with the money and everything, where they ended up seeing a train car pass with their with Charlie. So he went there, and the detectives were waiting for him. It seems like he has a slightly better relationship with one of the cops than the other one, because the other one's just kind of willing to be like, whoa, let's listen to what he has to say. But at the same time, Perry's like, you just want to put this on a husband, because like this way, like things could go better for you. You're just going to get a promotion from this, which he's like, oh yeah, and when it's all said and done, I'll get my promotion, and you can go back to doing like basically the shitty grunt work that you do, chasing down people and cheating case, because obviously he kind of does the grunt work, detective, like private PI wise, you know. So he's kind of looked down upon by the police, but obviously like it's a no love lost situation, because he has no love for them, they have no love for him. He has no love for them, and they have no love for him, because I think I said that with it for some, so I said it again. Sorry. There's also that situation where he was in court, I thought was kind of interesting, where they kind of threw his like military past at him, which, looking at the trailer, kind of hints that we'll probably get like some flashbacks to that, because they bring it up a couple times. Like Johnny Lithgow was like, oh, like his character's like, oh yeah, like he was in this particular battle, kind of trying to give him a little merit to like, oh, who Perry is. But it turns out, like, you know, whatever it was, things didn't end well. It was kind of like it was something like a dishonorable discharge, almost to a certain extent, and it's like, what is that about? But obviously Perry wasn't too happy about, like, he's like, what's the pertinence of that? Even like the lawyer on the other side, the defense attorney or whatever, or prosecutor, whatever the case may be, didn't say anything. He's like, this is a moment you jump in or something, but no, you're an idiot, you're just sitting over there twiddling your thumbs. And, you know, he's like, that was plenty enough a reason for someone to jump in to be like, objection, but he didn't. So I'm curious. I think obviously that's something we'll learn about more as the season progresses, but I think that's going to be an interesting route, the whole situation about his past with the military and everything. But at the same time, getting back to what I was talking about before, we do find out that the dad was involved. And for him, he's like, I should have run the moment I saw Charlie. So it's like, so the question then becomes like, I mean, obviously that's not where you want it. I mean, is that what you want it to be? But he even says like killer. So it's like, I guess the dad killed his son by accident and like covered it up with all of this. Is the wife involved in some shape or form? Or was it a situation of he didn't expect it to go down that route? But because it seemed like, which is also that thing of like, who the hell am I to tell someone how they react to grief? Because it's like, obviously, like the mother seems like she's the most broken heart. He seems the most adjusted. Granted, it could be like, once again, this is the 30s, so it's just kind of like men probably aren't supposed to show kind of their feelings, so it could easily be like he's still, you know, there's ways around, so it's not like that's a clear-cut way of just, his reactions don't make it seem, but I mean, they were picking up on his reactions too. It just makes me feel weird to be like judging someone of like, oh, he's not reacting a certain way you think, you know, people react differently to grief, you know, but it just, I wanted to try to understand that better of like, where his part to play in this. Was he a part of Charlie dying? Was his wife? Did they know about it? Was this all their thing, or was this his thing? And it seemed like it may have just been his thing, but obviously it turns out one of the cops shows up and he's dirty. So, but it's like, is the other cop dirty? I'd assume not, considering the fact is that he was the only one showing up. Because obviously the trailer kind of hits that, like, obviously some cops are involved. So it's not saying that just this detective is. There probably others as well, but he ends up showing up, killing everyone involved. His gun ends up jamming, so he ends up stepping and I guess kind of breaking the neck of the final dude. But the dad is running because like he got shot, but he's still alive. I was like, oh, he's about to get away. This is about and he tries to jump, but I guess because his arm's injured, he can't hold himself up, so he falls to his death. So kind of handles that for him. Granted, it's not as smooth as he'd probably want it to be because it's like, well, because I'm about to say, it's not like you can make that look like an accident anyway, because it's like you shot at all those other people, so you'd have to clean up that scene. So, but I guess having them all in one place would have made things easier, but it's like, it's done. So, once again, super unclear on what all of this was and for what purpose this whole thing with Charlie went down and what place the father played in all of this. And obviously, like I said, after all of this, just Perry just kind of like drinking and just kind of falling apart. But then we see at the end, like, he's got everything lined up and he's saying, and he sees a picture of like a turtle he had taken from Charlie's room. And, like he had taken a picture of one and he was like, you like turtles, huh? So I think for him it's cementing, like, because even like the head of the studio was kind of like, I want you to think long and hard about what you want to do and who you want to be. And I think in this moment, it's like almost all that kind of comes to head and he's just kind of like, all right, this case, I need to solve it. Like, he's kind of going in, like, I think he kind of took the case, like, a little half-heartedly. He took it seriously, but I think there was a little half-heartedness to it. I think at this moment, at the end, cements him going all in with this case. That's how I interpret it, but, very interesting start to the show. Obviously, I am not familiar with the Perry Mason character. I've heard the name before, but I've never associated it with, like, oh, this character that's been, like, in novels. I looked into it, like, the first one came out, like, 31. The last one came out 73, I think, is what, or at least that was the last appearance of the character. I don't know if that was necessarily the last time, like, but this is the most recent adaptation of the character, so, like I said, because I was reading some up on him, and it seems like he's a criminal, like, he's a criminal lawyer. Not more like, kind of the defense attorney type of situation. Not defense attorney. He's like a prosecutor, investigator type of thing. So for him I don't know. It almost seemed like he knew some stuff about the law. So that's why I'm wondering, is this supposed to be like early stages in his career where it's like before he got on the other side of the law, being like a lawyer type of thing, he was, kind of a private detective, or is this guy? I'm curious to see how that all kind of lines up, in the grand scheme of things. But regardless of all that, I'm very interested to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.